So, hi, my name is Grace Chad. I'm currently a junior here at Northern Michigan University studying sustainable business and enterprise creation. And I did my project on accessible recycling for Northern Michigan University students that live on campus. So, I found a problem, and the problem was that we have a lot of flexible plastics and foam plastics across campus, and only 9.1% of foam plastics across the entire world are actually recycled, and less than 1% of plastic bags are actually recycled. And it harms the actual recycling process. So I'll show you a picture. It's kind of interesting. So this is a picture of a waste management plant, not Recycle 906, but they have to stop it 3 to 4 times per day to cut out all of these bags that are sitting here. Because it actually, they have to like stop the entire system, not just that one thing. And shutdown and startup takes about an hour. So it's really not efficient to do this. I actually toured Recycle 906 yesterday, and they said that they don't actually shut down for these plastic bags, but every Friday they put it out because places such as this waste management facility run 24/7 365 because they have so much recycling. Recycle 906 doesn't have that problem. Actually, they need more recycling. So guys, recycle. But so they cleaned it out Friday because that's like their maintenance day when they have everything turned off. So yeah, we just don't want the plastics getting in there. And they actually have like human sorters to sort it out. But if it's missed, and you can't really control it. So what's the solution to this problem? The solution that I found was a plastic bag collection, like across campus. So it was funded by the Green Fund, which is $5 student fee that students pay each semester. And the pickups are taken care of by EREPS interns across the campus. And the biggest solution to this problem is education. Kind of what I'm doing right now is letting people know that this is a problem. People put their recyclables into their recycling in a bag. Don't do that, please. Just leave it with no bag at all. That is the best way to do it, because for each bag that is in the like that has recyclables in it, they have to actually cut that bag and they throw that right into the trash. So recycling it is better than putting it in the recycling but not actually getting recycled. So my biggest thing was making recycling accessible to students, because that's what I've heard a lot of students complain about, making it accessible and having accessibility of recycling on campus. So to make it accessible here, we have these locations at all of the residence hall front desk, along with the apartment. And then we have a drop off at the Shine building as well. We don't currently have it. This project is actually getting enacted before the beginning of next semester. But I kind of have like project that I just like made last week because we needed something. So I made this poster with the help of some people because I'm not very good with technology, honestly. But it shows every single thing. I should put it up here, but I didn't. Sorry, guys. Everything that can be put in there. So things like your Amazon packaging, it might say that it's recyclable, and you might think, oh, I can put that in the recycling. Actually, read the fine print. It says store drop off. So you can't put it in your normal recycling. And instead of driving all the way to the store for this one little thing, you can drop it in here and you're good. Same thing with like any plastic bags that they have. It says it has that recycling time. Oh, actually, this bag can get 40% recycling content. Good for them. That was tiny. And then these guys are just like something that you would get in your shipping container, just like air pockets. And they also need to be recycled in film recycling, along with anything like stuff that covers bread, stuff that covers like you get like a 24-pack of water bottles. That's not recyclable in your normal recycling. Any produce bags, and then my biggest thing that I'm guilty of is Ziploc bags. I love Ziploc bags. They're so fun. And I just toss them in the trash. But if you clean them out a little bit, you can put them in the recycling and you're all set. So the box that's going to actually go into the residence hall and everything, they're gonna be a lot prettier than this. They're gonna be covered. And so you're not just gonna see the box and yeah, much nicer entrance. So currently my entrance is just like I cut out a little bit of the box. And actually, exciting thing. Yesterday when we were setting up the celebration of success, we got a lot more easels in, which are super exciting for all the posters out there. And we were actually able to recycle them correctly. So I have hundreds of these things where the easels came out of. And I'm able to recycle them correctly along with bubble wrap, which is my favorite to play with. But a lot of fun. So just a few things. I know I mentioned accessibility about film recycling, which is what my Green Fund project was, which is why it was the main thing. But I also want to talk about accessibility of recycling in general on campus. So actually tonight at 5 p.m. in this exact room, I'm hosting a skill builder about recycling. And I've been working diligently on updating our recycling website for MMU. So everything is, I think, super clear, but if you have anything, you can email me and I will change it. Yes, because found some typos under this. And then we have made the Shine Building a TerraCycle hub for specific items that aren't normally recyclable, such as socks, razors, toothbrushes, toothpaste tubes, and a ton of other things. There's a lot of opportunities there that I'm actually going to go in depth on those tonight. But you can feel free to scan the QR code here to get to our recycling website so that you can see what's recyclable and what's not, and where to drop off those unique recyclables that we have here. So that's my presentation, and feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I love that you do. I tried reusable ones, they just like are not as good. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, so thanks for the question. So we have a university wide here that will collect whatnot. And we have close to 1,000 on the recycling of each, the gaps in understanding of the students regarding what is recycling, what is not recycling. And I think that there is a need for collaboration in this area to leverage this data. Starting this particular research attending is to use data to inform educational opportunity, because the data will guide us regarding what are the gaps, and we expect this data to be something that we are going to do every semester or every other semester. Because as new students are coming in, the previous data is going to be as good as the students that participated in that. Yes, I think incorporating the information from this data set will assist us to actually make our university environment, particularly the student population, to be better educated about issues related to recycling on campus and outside of campus. I really appreciate it.
Thing that like is the problem is that we don't have unified signage all over about recycling. So guys, I'm begging you, don't look at any facility's website because it's totally incorrect. Use that I just gave you because that is 100% correct. I've been in contact with Recycle 906 for the past like 3 months about it. So I'm working with facilities to get that to be correct. But yeah, new residence hall posters just went up about recycling. Those are also incorrect, unfortunately. They're changing them this summer. So if you see a poster that says recycled glass, please scratch that off because you cannot recycle glass. But yeah, that's my fix. And then, yeah, just drop it off. Can't put it in your normal recycle. that'll harm the people. Any other questions? You want to just give us a little preview of the skill builder? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, my favorite about it is we're gonna have a little, like, recycling sorting competition. So, I did this last semester actually as my, like, educational, project for, being an RA. And I brought like tons of things and I had my residents like sort them out. And then like somebody might throw plastic back in there and I'm like, oh, okay, you're on. And then, whoever gets the like shortest amount of time to store everything, then they like, well, last time they won a plant that I had propagated. But yeah, doing that. And then, like I mentioned, the TerraCycle. So getting people the resources that they need about recycling and making sure that people are aware of where the battery drop-off sites are around campus. I made a whole GIS map of that. Where you can drop off your glass, which is right across the street on Wright Street. Where you can drop off your contacts and your floss containers and all these different things. And kind of just introducing people to the idea of like recycling before just tossing trash. But I do have like a large disclaimer on my presentation for tonight about, hey, just so you know, recycling is not like our savior. That's the third option out of 4. So recycling is not like the best thing ever, but it is a good option if you're going to use those plastics anyway. What are the better 2? Refuse, which says no, just don't take it. A lot of things, and I'm guilty of this as well. I'm better at it now. But like Fall Fest, when everybody has all their stuff out, I'm grabbing everything. And like, but realistically, I'm not going to use really any of it. So just say no, thank you. I don't want that. Like I completed one of my edges for Superior Edge. You can get a tumbler for that. I said no, thank you. I'm good. I have enough cups. That's great. So just refusing, and then the other one is reusing. So specifically I'm a big fan of reusing glass. So glass recycling actually isn't really recycling, especially up here. It's repurposing. So they make stand out of the glass. They don't like remake glass out of the glass. So just reuse that glass. That lasts forever. So yeah. Is Riley Vermont, a master of interdisciplinary studies. Project get a shout out. It's the Oh, and also last thing, I have stickers on here that are about what you correctly recycle on the app, and then a QR code, and they're designed to fit on the president hall recycling bin, but you can put them wherever. My one last okay. Before I start, I would like to thank the Travis sponsors who booked in this project that we've been working on project content, and also lovely advisor Mallory Albee. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of NASCAR, and questions from the public, the people's and methods, and so a little bit about NASCAR. NASCAR stands for Native American and this was passed in 19 So, this law, when it was originally, enacted in 1990, was only supposed to be around for 5 years. We are now going on 34 years of it being around, and 600 of the 23 institutions that have reported having ancestors, 613 of those are the only institutions that have actually offered ancestors and belongings back to their tribes. 46% have not been made available to tribes, and this actually is equal to 97,022 ancestry. So, it's important, while I talk about this, to acknowledge that a lot of people, within the literature have addressed what happened to Native Americans as a genocide. The dispossession of Native Americans from the east to the west, continuously rehoming them. It has been viewed as a cultural genocide, it has been viewed as a physical genocide, and the book actually coined the term indigenocide to describe this like three-way onslaught of destruction of the Americans. Lawrence Gross, who's a missionary, writer, he actually calls what happens to the Americans apocalypse, which is really important because currently Native Americans are living in this post-apocalyptic life where they're trying to figure out how to navigate through a culture as well as legal. So the problems with NAGPRA is that it really lacks teeth, and when I say it lacks teeth, there's no enforcement for non-compliance with the law. And we see that these issues and lack of enforcement shine through the rhetoric and compliance that is really outlined. So there's a lot of harmful rhetoric, ancestry, technological resources, belongings are called objects, and when you continuously perpetuate harmful language, it's easy for society to accept this as true. And so, as of April 2022, there were only 20 institutions that were found non-compliant, and at most were fined $2,000. According to the law, each institution found non-compliant should fine $8,000 or more, or 25% of their funding from the institution. So in 2024, we saw a change in NAGPRA. As of January 12th, regulations were updated. So reading through these regulations, my question was, where were we have a lot of tribal representatives, but who's speaking on behalf of the ancestors and belongings? So I wanted to engage with this question, but do it from an individual perspective. So my questions were, does NAGPRA law help tribal rules of repatriation and protection or will it cause harm? And then if so, where are the indigenous voices who speak on behalf of these issues and are they? I thought that the tribal representatives that I spoke with would share the benefits of NAGPRA processes, but also highlight epistemology or like indigenous realities. Federal governmental proceedings are falling short of being tribal. I also thought that while NAGPRA processes may seem beneficial, they can cause harm to tribe and institutional relationship facilitation, hindering repatriation abilities, and disregarding the primary basis for the law, which is that all deserve human rights. Without going into a lot of like depth on it, because it is complicated and complex, I understand briefly touch on it. So I'm going to just Foley, Dan Foley is from Australia, but I have heard a lot of indigenous frameworks taking it from almost 20 years of experience, relatively different. But what he does is he offers space for indigenous researchers to approach research from a business perspective, from their reality, bringing in their own voice into cultural matters and how to maintain their cultural matters. I also use Brittany's strategy approach, which if you look at this little triangle, it brings in a consideration human world, along the state. And it was unique to Indigenous practices and how that can be done. I also use Wilson's Relational Accountability, which focuses on respect, reciprocity, and relationality, emphasizing the importance of relationship, and then being true to that relationship and continuing with it. It's not something that research is just carried out on people, and then you cut ties. It's something that is forever forming and transforming. So the people that I talked to are the Anishinaabe. I spoke with the statutory preservation officers and the specialists. These are the individuals within the state of Michigan who are from 12 federally recognized tribes, and they are the ones who are responsible for any type of preservation, protection, or repatriation of all indigenous cultural heritage. So speaking to my Indigenous perspectives, I stayed away from calling it data. It's not data, it was knowledge that was shared to me. And it's the way people live, it's how they teach. And so I recognize that I come from a very long history of Western science background, but I wanted to bring in my Indigenous perspectives and what I have been taught as a family. So I was approaching this from kind of like a middle ground of both Indigenous and Western. So I did two things. I did an interview and a survey. In my survey, I had statements about NAGPRA. 5 of them talk about the experience with tribal repatriation and training. 5 relations with NAGPRA. 5 practices in law. 5 were the acceptance of tribal practices in Western science, and 2 of them covered the recognition of the relationships and forces of tribal nations. So I looked at the information in 3 different ways. I looked at the ability between individuals who answered the questions. Then I looked at the ability between what I expected the individual answer was, and then I looked at an individual basis and what could have caused them to answer the questions the way they did. And I found that individuals who have been in the typical position for a lengthy amount of time tend to interact or view NAGPRA more positively than those who were relatively new. For the interviews, I asked more elaborate questions about the survey statement. And these cover language and recognition of tribal perspective. And native scholarly writing, we see a lot of consciousness and Indigenous authors will always say why. But they also focus on relationship and knowledge. And so these are the things during the interview I really pulled out what was the most important and what stuck out mostly with Hippo in the process. So I found that consciousness actually was the most repetitive theme that was heavy on the mind. And it was not only about the acknowledgement of Indigenous science, but the acknowledgement of the respect that Native Americans are not offered and the harm that so I initially asked 12, and I only got half of the people to respond, so I only interviewed 6. And that's actually, I emphasize that as a limitation in my thesis, but remaining true to the Indigenous standpoint, it wasn't so much about numbers, but the breadth of the depth of the conversation that I was having. These were months of conversations with 6 individuals, and I feel like I cannot learn more than like a mass survey to a bunch of people, and not really had to say to the name or the individual I was working with, where I learned about why they see things
Have you had any follow-up since the regulations have changed since, or do you plan to have any follow-up?
So that is part of like, COVID research. I think right now, I can say how the regulations are changing relationships because it's only 4 months out, but you do already start to see a lot of change in the work. UC Berkeley, which is very notorious for withholding the ancestry names, have now come out that they will repatriate 4,400 we have. The Peabody Institute from Harvard is now repatriating the hair samples from the indigenous kids from the Roseville Agency, where their hair was forcibly taken when they moved to industrial school. And it's like those are really big steps and just like the acknowledgement, but I think that it goes a little bit further than the letter of the law and what's written in the law and kind of acting on why it's important and recognizing that these are human beings and we all deserve the same amount of respect, especially with our autonomy and choosing what we do with our bodies. And so I think it's a little too soon to tell, but it is something I would like to follow. About the change of the law.
How do they go about how like the university that whoever is holding investment names, how do they go about making sure that with proper tribes? And then once they are reaching that proper tribes, what's the process? You know.
So before the regulations changed this year, it meant it was a good baseball. So it was just kind of your intelligence as a period or biology professor, no biology professor that you're doing what you should be doing to return these answers. One of the issues of cultivation, which shows that the people have cultural affiliation to the tribe that is and one of the things, like I mentioned, how Native Americans are in this post-apocalyptic life. The cultures that we know now are not the same cultures that we knew before. And so trying to navigate what that looks like is a little difficult. Michigan actually has MECPRA, which is the Michigan Anishinaabe Cultural Preservation and Repatriation Alliance. And it's easier to have all recognized tribes plus 2 state recognized tribes to come together and to repatriate on behalf of and then figure out properly than it is to sometimes just have a bunch of things out for one thing. The regulations have changed. Now we have geographical location, which is a little bit more helpful. If an archaeologist or a management firm dug up an individual or their belongings and kept the context intact, so like where they were from. Now, if a tribe had occupied that area at any time, they can speak that. But most of the time, tribes talk to one another, and they will retreat on top of or in the trying to gain space. And they go man. Ancient ones and tribes calling, but there were 5 tribes that staked claim to that claim. And they ended up working together to bring Welcome to the green room. If you do leave, there's a bin to recycle your program right outside the door. We are at the 2:30 presentations. Lola Regano. And she's going to tell us about growing sustainability insights from Boston's garden project. We wanted to speak. We're figuring it out. Before we get started, here, just a brief overview of the slide presentation. We're going to do and this is the average age of the American farmer was 65 years old. This is an incredible issue as it's done with many dimensions were more open and sustainable practices and procedures when it comes to agriculture. Additionally, school buildings also address however, unfortunately, it's common for school buildings to fail within only a few years of education. In UP, we also face the additional challenges to our opportunity, as well as very poor schools. With that in mind, we set out to mitigate the impact of school learning. And this project is to introduce the full influence of successfully independent. In total, we have 114 different respondents as well as 39 staff. We also conducted similar structured interviews with 4 parents. We discussed the very first question we asked was, what is learning something? Which most people report not interest. When asked to explain this interest, parents and staff overall as well as a chance to more about them now. Staff were also slightly more interested in gardens in this. Asked to explain why it wouldn't be something they interested in. Most people listed time constraints that this interest in learning or just lack of knowledge as their main reason. However, we attribute this to most people in the that. As you can see here, 114 parents were surveyed, only 10 said they had considered. The next question was, what would be your vision for starting? Parents were slightly more in favor of the guidance teaching purposes as well as student evaluation. As staff were more in favor of using guidance in the video. And as how they thought the garden should be implemented, general consensus that we should use. Algorithms also allowed. Not surprising. Also, a lot of favoring of applications, but then or support and funding for the garden in the long run. Well, there was a lot of support for the garden. Most parents and staff did their personal involvement. Pretty unsurprising given how busy it is. They also listed several major concerns. The major ones were funding, time restrictions, who's going to care for the garden this summer when there's nobody there, as well as there's also concern for the so we propose that something to address how to make although funding was a major concern, many people did such as state and federal grants, for state of Banksville, and access to existing funds. Moving to our interview results, the first question we asked was, how do you think this garden is going to learn more about their kids? People said they thought the garden is about where sustainability comes from. They believe this would help the industry become very involved in production, as well as generate interest in food sustainability. One of the last questions we asked in the interview was who should know things. Most teachers were in favor of the best managed by parents and students. But overall, there was just general support. It should be while there was a large amount of support for the garden, there were varying levels of interest in participation. We also included some degree of community involvement as necessary if this college is as well as some form of outside evaluation. We also So with that in mind, our next steps will first be focus discussion groups to study the respondents. One to discuss implementation. One to invest in them. Discussion groups, we also have an updated implementation plan that we can work on. We also plan to create grant applications to address these attributes. And people stated not only did they think it would teach this responsibility and boost their self-esteem and character, it would help them foster a sense of peace. And give them a sense of joy and pride.
No, when I was growing up, my grandparents and my other set of grandparents had a greenhouse and a garden. So I spent a lot of time around plants and understanding where they came from. So when I could not grow grass, when I lived in Michigan, I still live in Michigan, I couldn't grow grass in the front yard. So I thought I would just pull up my yard and plant a garden. It was very successful. And my kids learned a lot from it. And, you know, I learned that my grandparents taught me how to survive and not just live. And, you know, so it's a skill that I think all people should have. So, as far as like just keeping it in like a school setting, like, have you thought about, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to, like, trying to get it in more homes. Like, I think it's so, growing things is easy, and it can be easy. mean, it's not a hard thing to do, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time, once you have it set up. So just, besides just having it in school, like, without getting it more close. If you communicate to the home students, get it, I don't know what the next thing. But I just think it's so important, I love it.
They don't understand that.
Right.
They can't. I think I would really like to see them access to materials, how easy it is to build a computer, like just having there some.
Right.
Like how easy it is to access to materials. And yes. I think not just students involved in that. So I think if I think we learn bonus at school.
Yeah, sorry, I always thought it would be neat too, it would, because we do see more of these school gardens popping up. If schools would commit to growing like one crop and then like trading with other schools, to kind of, build that community, not just within their community, but within their county and surrounding areas as well. I thought that too.
Another thing we considered for bonus. A potential. But also just getting students to reduce, they have more time with more experience. And it's just overall more.
Do you have a feel for how big you would like it to be ideally or practically or?
Like the government.
Yeah.
I think as of right now. I would this is really like this house, yeah, and then at some point, so go outside. There is a little next to the school itself. That would be but yeah, I guess I don't have a style for it.
In addition to what, so this is part of it. We want to stabilize the government system, what we think about. Because one of the things we realized is that many schools in the UK that started and interestingly, there's another story, a bit of different. But it's going to go on. So we are looking at economic people sustainable, because there's a lot of passion when it comes to passion.
Because people don't want to put in time.
Well,
the
Growing season is outside of the school year, public school. So,
right. It's gonna take the time to get to the school when you're like, yeah.
You pick up on it. Like
Oh, absolutely.
in the case of Oswald, both of those teachers said, okay, we really want to, but whatever, we have enough on our plate. We can just have it. That is all. So a lot of these things are some of the things, and that's why we are trying to change the narrative. Yeah, right from the very beginning, school guidance is hope and sustainability. So that it's not after the struggle that it's happening. So this is what we are school guidance.
welcome to the green. Okay, Julia and Madeline are here to tell us about model profit and threatened farmlands. And they're gonna plug it while we're transitioning, and we have programs to recycle it. After this, we will have the student talk panel on the green spot. If you don't know anything about the green spot, it's a great way to learn something.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Leeds. My name is Madeline Shepherd. And today we'll be presenting on the topic of monocropping and the potential of threatened farmlands in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. To start, we provided you all with a presentation outline to just give you an overview of what we'll be discussing today.
There are a number of factors that make farming in the Upper Peninsula hard. One of these, as many of you have experienced, are the harsh conditions. It's cold all year round. We have a really long snow season. This really shortens the growing season. On top of this, there's a lot of monocropping. And also, there's a food desert up here. With this research, we looked specifically at the monocropping aspect. And to doing this, we did a ArcGIS analysis and a remote sensing analysis.
So to start, we'll go over some of our methods on how we collected our data. So for the primary first part of our research, we collected data from the American Farmland Trust, specifically the Farms Under Threat, the State of the States report. What this report did, it demonstrated that land across the United States has been increasingly converted from farmland into urban lands, meaning that farmlands as a whole for the United States has been threatened. And so this is the data we primarily use for our project, and we will use both metadata and raster data. So moving on, we did use raster data, which is the image data that we were able to use for mapping purposes. Like I said before, this was from the American Farmland Trust, and we were able to obtain 6 different files that each had a different use for us to make maps, and they are listed below. And as I said before, this data was originally showcased for all of the US, but in order to make it relevant to our research, we had to clip it down to that of just the Upper Peninsula and the region up here to make it relevant to our research.
The first part of our research, we created 6 different maps, each of which look at a different aspect of farming. Maps 1 and 2 is an analysis of the land covering use. We used the years 2001 and 2016 just to see what things have changed. The orange and red areas on this map are the municipal lands, and the green areas are the natural lands. While the population has declined, there has been a slight increase in urban development in the southern portion of the UP. But this is estimated to have little to no impact on farms. If anything, it has acted as a flat line. This flatline development has created a new opportunity for agriculture.
So the next map looked at agricultural land conversion. So basically what this map up here is showing is what land was not farmland and was converted into farmland in that 15-year span. As you can see up on the map, the code says that the purple areas are land that wasn't converted, whereas the yellow areas are land that was converted. There's barely any yellow areas on the map. There's actually only just a few specks in the southern region, some in the west and some in the central, but not much land conversion has taken place, even though there has been that opportunity for development in agriculture. Map number 4 focused on the significant farmland from 2016. So it's a few years outdated, but we can assume that it's still mostly relevant for now. The yellow areas, just like the last map, show the areas that are considered farmland, whereas the purple areas show areas that are not farmland. Going further into not just researching what farmland exists, we decided to look into the diversity of crop types. So we do have a pie chart here that shows the different types of crops that are able to grow in the Upper Peninsula and the percentages of each. As you can see, it is almost a majority of hay, which is a forage type of agriculture. And this dominance of the forage type agriculture has led to concerns about monocropping, which for those who don't know, monocropping is when the same crop is planted in the same soil year after year, which can lead to the degradation of the soil and the removing of the nutrients in that soil.
Map number 5 indicates the nationally significant agricultural land for the year 2016. Our gray areas is land that is deemed not suitable for agriculture, and the red areas is the land best suited for agriculture. Clearly, there are plenty of farms that are residing in these lands not best suited for agriculture, so really hardy. But a lot of the trends that you'll see is that a lot of the best farms, a lot of the thriving farms, that South Central Portion in Menominee County. You'll see this in a lot of the maps that we've shown before, and a lot of maps we have yet to present. Map number 6 is the productivity, versatility, and resiliency map from 2016. This is measured in a lot of ways, but mostly by those that numbered listed there on the slide. The dark red and the dark orange areas are those with the highest PBR rankings, and the yellow and light orange areas are those with the lowest. For the most part, the UP has a medium, low and medium PBR ranking. This can be directly tied to monocropping and crop. Implication of these findings. So farmland in UP is scarce to begin with, but overall it really hasn't changed much. They're scarce given the amount of suitable land we have on top of our harsh climates and our forest.
So as Betty was just talking about, the farmlands in the Upper Peninsula are not necessarily threatened, but there is concern to be raised about monoculture. Farmlands have been dominated by this forage type agriculture. It's over 75%, even nearing 80%, which is an important type of agriculture for animals, but overgrazing can lead to harming the ecosystem and also further degrading the soil. Also, concerns are raised about there being a low food supply for humans because forage type agriculture is usually not nutritious and sometimes not even edible for humans. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to discuss the concerns of monocropping now. As we've already discussed, the UP is not diverse in crop type. That's mainly due to the fact that many types of crops cannot grow up here. And even though farmlands aren't considered threatened at the moment, if we keep degrading the soil through practice of monocropping, in the future we could be at risk for threatened farmland. Another concern is the fact that the UP is classified as a food desert. There's a lack of food grown locally, which means that costs are high for people who might not be able to afford food, and also leads to people going hungry. In areas that experience more agriculture, this is not as much of a concern. And so specifically moving forward, we wanted to focus on that monocropping. What are the implications? Can we find some concrete evidence on what monocropping is doing to the state of agriculture? So we started by mapping out some small farms in the Upper Peninsula using the ArcGIS Pro software. These farms were mapped out along with their crop type to determine if monocropping was prevalent or shown, and the findings showed that most crops and most farms in the Upper Peninsula only had about 2 to 3 different types of crops, and a lot of the farms, although I can't speak for all of them, they don't change them year to year, which most farms in southern portions of the country do. So moving forward, we're planning on having further conversation with these farm owners to really understand why this is happening, if there's any solutions that can be implemented, and maybe figure out what's their reasoning for doing this. Is it just because of the climate, or are there other things we don't know about?
Second part of this research, we did our remote sensing project. First, we did UBI analysis, which is looking at the vegetation indexes. We did this in a 12-year span in 4-year intervals. Next, after that, we did a change detection analysis, and we found that the NDVI values really have decreased over time. Again, this is a direct result of monitoring. Up here in our map, the red areas show the decrease in vegetation. So concluding thoughts, once again, UP farmlands are currently not threatened, but with the rate of monocropping that we see, they could get that way in the years to come.
So as we discussed, monocropping was a big focus of our research, and we found that it's heavily prevalent in the UP and can lead to future problems, if not already current problems that we're having with our agriculture.
Our remote sensing analysis showed a visual of just how this NDVI values are decreasing. We only focus on Chippewa County, but we're hoping to this trend to other bigger counties.
Moving forward, as stated before, we'll be continuing further contact with farm owners to truly understand why this issue is happening and if we can devise any solutions to the issue of monocropping. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that the UP is not always a food desert. It's sad that it's classified as a food desert, and we don't want it to be anymore, because food security should be promised and not a privilege.
Are you finding that like the monocropping, or do you think, not are you finding, but do you think that it happens also because the crops that we are able to grow, even if they were able to do like crop rotations throughout the year, are very similar because of the climate we live in? So the crops that we might rotate with on a big farm level are, you know, taking the same types of nutrients because they thrive in the same.
I definitely say that's what we found, that this, especially the forage type agriculture seems to thrive up here and compared to other types of agriculture. And unfortunately, you know, as much as we want to say, oh, stop monocropping, that's not our answer because there's only so much that can thrive up here. So I definitely think that is the primary reason. Of course, we have to continue talking with these farm owners to figure out their perspective on it. But I definitely think that that's the ultimate going to be the reason behind all that. And so definitely have to continue that conversation to see if there's any way to provide a solution on that issue.
So, okay, so I'm looking, I look at agriculture from a historically standpoint. So, I guess my question first of all is starting off, I'm sorry, but what is stopping like agriculture from being from within like city areas? Because I feel like historically it's been like like civilization of like city and farm are one the same. So then how do you what is like the major like distinction between like urban areas or developed areas, especially the areas like that much going on? But for those people, how do you like what is the disconnect?
Do you mean like why it's not happening in the urban areas and it's happening in the rural
I
areas?
guess my question is like that like talks about like what if there's so much like here's disconnect between the people of the UK and their food, which is like out in the area. So, but what are some things stopping that agriculture from coming closer to the cities or the where there's people versus just
Well,
in
I think that it's,
To see, it's less of a disconnect and more of like we were talking before, we just have that need to grow that variety of foods. I mean, I don't remember the statistics, but it's 50% of the food here. And most of that, I wouldn't say it's directly because we only monocrop here, but it's just that fun. You know, like there's people that have greenhouses, but it's not enough to feed the entire. So I guess that's the best. Do you have anything else?
yeah, I'd say, at the farmer's market too, I've spoken to several farm owners around here, and a big issue they do it is that they try to plant these nutritious crops, but they can't survive up here. And sometimes it'll even be some years they survive and some years they don't. It's very unpredictable. And so for local places to stock up on that type of produce, it's just not reliable enough up here in the current state.
so just looking at less economically, like not access to it's
Right.
not
It's less of a lack of desire and more of a lack of.
okay.
Love the project, you guys, it's amazing, and love how all different aspects of education in one culminating project. I was in, especially on history too, I think short answer to that is no, we can talk more about it. But your question, I'm also thinking about change over time, and I love how I think it's naturally the change shows like trajectories of change, and you look back, I think it was like, yeah, 2001, 2000. It's like, oh, it has changed, but I wonder, like, if you look deeper in time, would this picture look different? That's two first questions. Would it look different if you look back deeper in time, such as early pre like industrial era?
Like-
And then what kind of data sets might you use to look deeper at land change trajectories, like deeper in time?
So I know when we made this first map, we were limited to 2016 because that's the latest that the data went. As far as how deep it goes, that would be one of the latest year that you could download it.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on that. I know when, looking for, especially, at one point I downloaded a full crop type map of the United States, flipped it up to, the Upper Peninsula, that 2 hours to load. But, it's really hard to find data that isn't from the present day. A lot of times they just override it on the website with stuff you can download. And a lot of times that past, data does have a paywall, which of course we could go around, but it makes it a little trickier. But I definitely have to try a little harder, I think, in looking to that past agriculture type to really get a true answer.
Because I know for this one too, there was a lot of who has registered as agriculture land. So looking back, it might have been a little bit tough to get that organization to where we could make a viable map out of it unless we go with like space by space and determine, okay, farm.
I'm wondering if there's like archival data information of like going back to the much more like booming part of the country, like back in the 200s, whatever. So I'm wondering if there's like going back to like archival data of like there's like stuff about that.
I hope you encourage, and I encourage you to continue this conversation. We have one more panel starting at 3 o'clock. So list of representatives.
There's now, so. Yeah, the, I guess. The narrative, the video, marketing, really, this lovely poem that you hear in the background. You hear in the background.
Is it on the black box where you have to turn the sound up?
It's, yeah.
Oh.
My name is Isabel Monta. I am climate education. The back. Yeah, we can do introductions. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm the climate education intern for the Grace Brady and Elizabeth Griffin. I don't know the other director. The backdrop at Northern Michigan University inspires learning, growth, and discovery. Creating NMU's most valuable resource, the land and environment surrounding campus.
Upon the shore. Atmosphere, water, sun, and sand.
These surroundings are not just backdrop. They are the heart and soul of the NMU experience, nurturing a deep appreciation for nature, the land, and what it provides. In 2018, a small group of students came together to create a visionary initiative called the Green Fund. The Green Fund allows students to actively participate in protecting NMU's natural backdrop while ensuring sustainable nature.
Whispering creeks flow, conscious choice.
Through a $5 functional fee, students can engage directly in preserving and sustaining the very environment that makes NMU so special.
Lakes near the sky, calm and deep.
The Green Fund empowers students to propose and create sustainability projects that impact the campus and the surrounding environment.
The forest unveils cascades beyond it. Trees support lungs.
By supporting the Green Fund, students are directly investing in renewable energy, a key way that NMU will achieve its commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050. Incorporating biodiversity lawns on campus with native plants help the local pollinators. One of the most important local pollinators are bees. These local beehives provide a safe haven from the UP's adverse weather conditions. This ensures that a wide range of crops and flowers will successfully fruit and flourish, providing more food for ourselves and wildlife. Through sustainable landscaping practices, we're conserving Earth's most precious resource by collecting rainwater for irrigation and using the excess water to sustain our ecological diversity on campus.
The Green Fund is more than just money. It's how students can actively participate in safeguarding and reuse natural surroundings, becoming stewards of the land, transforming ideas into action, and shaping a future where Northern Michigan University's natural settings thrive.
This is a great introduction to our panelists, and the eco reps are the student org that are the caretakers of the green. Yes, so to me, sustainability is something that affects all aspects of life. So when looking to make an energy a greener place, and to do so within the Green Fund, it's makes it a better place for the environment and the current student population. There's a lot of different solutions that fall within that. This is one reason why the Green Fund is open to all students to submit. What may be sustainable to me, an environmental studies student that lives off campus, is very being totally different from a student who is an art student who lives on campus. Because if we just go about our lives different. The Green Fund has received many different types of proposals, some that have been implemented and some that have not been chosen to fund it. To be funded, some focus areas that we have seen that have been submitted include upgrading landscaping practices with integrating things such as no-mow areas, clover lawns, and rain gardens, improving the food system on campus with increasing composting initiatives, the beekeeping club, and a freezer/fridge for the food pantry, as well as energy systems such as solar panels and a power strip giveaway that reduces damage. Some other focus areas include the brine, or focus areas or just green projects funded include brine tank irrigation, clothes and book swaps, transportation regarding bikes, and recycling. This is not all the proposals that the Green Fund has received, but just some examples of some focus areas. Even if a proposal is not chosen for that specific year, sometimes those ideas can get taken and still incorporated into the university planning. So it is helpful when proposals are well planned out and organized, but just advocating for any type of change within the university, big or small, still helps improve student lives and helps improve the environment. So I'm gonna go over, well, first I'll go over my project. So I did a project this year about accessibility of recycling on campus. So my project was making these boxes that go across campus, specifically in the residence halls, apartments, and at the Shine building, so that flexible plastic can be recycled the correct way. So something include plastic bags that you get whenever you go shopping, any of the like Amazon Prime boxes, and any packaging material such as bubble wrap or anything like that, along with any just like plastics that are flexible. There's a difference between rigid plastics and flexible plastics. They're both recyclable, but they're not recyclable both in the curbside recycling. So I did my project, I submitted it, and it got funded. And in the long run, so this is a prototype, it's gonna look prettier, I promise. I wanted to walk you guys through a little bit of what the process looks like for an application. It's actually super simple. So like the video said, nmu.edu/ecoreps, there's a link there that says like apply to the Green Fund. And it's very quick and easy, I would say. It needs to be well thought out. We're looking for projects that have like clearly thought out, because a few of them that we had this year were like 2 to 3 sentences and that was it. And they didn't contact anybody, they didn't talk to anybody. There wasn't a lot of like information within that application. And so we weren't able to approve that because it didn't have information for us to go ahead and make those changes on campus. But a few of them that like you could see they really took a deep dive. Like it was really amazing to see. Oh, they contacted the person they needed to contact, and they talked to these people, and they took estimates from different locations, the pricing and things like that. So basically, the application is just what's your idea? How do we get that implemented, and then how much would it cost? So it's a super simple application that anybody that's a student on campus can submit because it's your money and we want you to do what you want to do with it, as long as it's somehow sustainability related. So yeah, like Isabel said, this year, a project that got approved was like a little library system of like book swapping around campus. And some people would think, oh, that's not very like environmentally friendly, but realistically, it makes like just everything more accessible to students. So students that don't have textbooks can get the textbooks there instead of buying them or having to rent them or anything like that. And just getting the books that you want to read instead of having to buy them new is a great way to reduce your consumption.
And then I just kind of have some information on the history of the Green Fund, and then also what enemies compared to some other universities. I'm mostly talking about Western, just because I know the most about that, and I've been in contact with their director of sustainability. So, kind of like in the beginning of the video, there was a group of students who then became GoReps, but they became really passionate about starting some sustainability fee within tuition. So they started this proposal and posted to the SMU, who then voted for 76% of students in favor of the Green Fund. And then they presented this board of trustees also in 2018 to establish a $5 student opt-out fee, which was implemented in the fall of 2020. That tuition bill. So our particular Green Fund grant system is unique because it is student initiated and student led. So kind of the process, students will submit proposals on their own. They can contact people, but it's not necessarily faculty led proposals, student led, and then eco reps who are students then first get the first pick of the proposals that are seeing what we want to be implemented. And this is a little more unique compared to Western. Western has a student sustainability fee, and they're the first university in Michigan to start with this. That was in 2010. It was $8 a semester, and it was the same story where students went, started a proposal, got students to rally behind it, and then with their board of trustees. But their sustainability fee funds 3 different accounts, and ours is kind of just one overarching thing. So they have the general student sustainability grant. They also have an implementation and ongoing projects fund and the student researchers fund. So when you look into the details of that, it's like 57% of the money goes towards projects, which is a big chunk. But about 19 goes to student researchers, 90% of the money, and 24% of the money goes to funding their office of sustainability. So they have full-time staff positions there with the director, as well as they have like 12 or more student employees every semester. So that money is going to other things, not just sustainability initiatives. So I think that Northern is in a really good position because basically all of that money is coming from students and going back to students more directly. And it's just also a much easier application process at Western. It's much more of a grant system than a proposal. So we also have the seed box, which I don't know if you or not, but students can submit just bare bones ideas into that, help write those into proposals. But the grant system at Western is much more, you submit a whole application and then they have higher ups that have to go through those, and the whole student body has to vote. So it's a little hard there. So I think we're in a pretty unique position here. funding those most factors. I actually have some information here, just some money and some needs. So, okay, so the first year of the Green Fund, $45,000 we collected from it, and the second year was 50,000. I think it's still going up from that. We're getting more years.
Yeah, as enrollment increases, more people pay. What happens is sometimes they pay the first semester and then second semester they're like, oh, I can have this thing. And some people but we tend to see more coming to the fund in the fall. But it averages well.
I have a list of the completed projects so far from the Green Fund. So there's the Clover Lawn Test Plot, which is over next to Greaves. There's a couple of rain gardens around campus. We got the solar panel installations at the Shine Building, and that was from the website was $50,000. Like these are the kind of large scale items that fund those. Beekeeping program, composting in the dining hall. Really going good right now. The power strip giveaways, as well said. There are clothing swap donation bins all around campus. Things sandwich, freezer, fridge, pantry. Rainwater irrigation at the heating plant, and some biodiversity bonds.
Have the ones that are approved and in the hopper for this year.
I have that on my list here.
I have it right on. Okay, yeah, you have presented. Yeah, so my project was, and then like I talked about that textbook, swap areas across campus, as well as, in the dining hall, having, reusable to-go containers that students kind of like rent out and then bring back. So students can take food out of NLD now instead of having to eat it there, but having reusable containers instead of containers that are treated for trash, which is super cool. I know there's more on my list. Well, an exciting thing, kind of Green Fund related, but not completely, is we had a lot of submissions for biodiversity gardens around campus, which love the idea. Yes, let's do it. But actually, we're like overhauling our landscaping plan across campus because it hasn't been done since 2001, which is kind of crazy. I was not even born, and so we're sorry to make you feel old. But so the landscaping plan is getting overhauled, and they have brought in the ecologists onto the team. So those like ideas of biodiverse lawns, native pollinator gardens, things like that, that is on their mind while they are doing this. So none of those projects actually got approved because they are kind of being like thrown into that landscaping plan. Yeah, exactly. Then ideally,
Yes.
instead of using student funding.
University.
Yeah.
So because I am so old, when I first came to school here, obviously we didn't have the Green Fund. I mean, this is started in 2002 initially, first time around. And we had, I just remember that there were some of like, I don't even know what it was called. There was like the native plant area where they just want to small. And I've noticed that those gotten bigger than, or like more prevalent than the early 2000s when I initially started coming in. Is that part of this program? And because I remember there was a particular area over by the science building, and they had not yet built the woods. It was ants falling. It was, I remember there was always an argument about that area because they always wanted to protest out there one day. And so, yeah, I was just curious if the effort of the green fund is why they seem more prevalent and it doesn't seem to be such a controversial issue, which I always thought was strange. That maybe, I the fact that they want to keep this eventually controversial.
Yeah, I think a lot of students nowadays are less like controversial, like if that makes sense, like if either you support like environmentalism or like kind of you keep your mouth shut. Like I'm gonna be honest, like they're gonna be judged. So like, you know,
Right, there's that shift in attitude.
That's what
that.
and you think that shift is also happening in the grounds. So the people
Yeah.
responsible for those spaces, I think in the late 90s or 2000s, it was like super clean, really manicured,
Right.
campus pretty. When families come to visit, donors are on campus. Like I've heard that so many times. Oh, Jess, we can't let it go wild out there. It's gotta look good. I was like, it does look good. I think it's better than you thought. It's much better. You know, 20 years ago there were orange tiger lilies. They were everywhere, around every building, and every flagpole. They're so pretty. Yeah, and then like just like green Kentucky bluegrass. We're seeing the shift in this on the staff, and it really is a reaction to naturally. Even like all the plants that you see like out here, they are native species, so they've been making this effort. In fact, one thing that they want to do, and it's outside of the Green Fund, but they want to have a nursery back by the services building where they can cultivate native species, give them hardy enough to them plant. Because a lot of the landscape that like this has to happen with like pretty well established plants because
Right.
we have such a harsh climate, and then the upkeep, and you don't have staff to get them strong. You know, it's a loss.
Or they're not interested in doing so.
Question too, so that'd be, yeah. Along those lines, into, more native lawns, not designated areas, but grass and so the upkeep is less, water management is less, overall tree plus, you get the right kind of.
Yeah, that's even in the carbon neutrality.
Okay,
Want to increase the amount of no-mow zones on skating that we have on campus. The trick is to keep it basics. So what is this woolly the caterpillar? No, they're I don't know why I can't because I want to say woolly mullen, but that's what it was in Colorado. It is another species of an invasive.
The
and-
lantern? Is it like the lanternfly thing?
No, it's a plant.
Oh.
And it takes over the no-mow zones. And
Woolly mammoth.
it's a it's like a tall plant.
Does that have a color? It has a bud.
You should have it in my notes. Spotted knapweed.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, spotted knapweed takes over. And so then we got a lot of green fund proposals that were like invest in removing the invasive species, get rid of the spotted knapweed. I'm like, yeah, this is a good idea. And then we find out the spotted knapweed is actually so even though it's invasive, pollinators, especially bees, hummingbirds, like they get tons of food off this invasive species. Now we're in a situation where we have like this pollinator friendly plant, but it is invasive. And
But you can have like another native plant that's
Absolutely.
pollinator friendly. That it's better. When I was in AmeriCorps, we worked with one of our AmeriCorps programs we had was with I believe the DNR. Don't remember exactly which program we were working with, but we were replacing the dune grass on the short period because that there was an invasive species. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but purple flowers. It was kind of pokey. It wasn't thistle, but it was something that looked similar to thistle and but can get you to handle it too much. And things. It was awful, awful. It was awful. So they had like went through and taken some out, but then the shores were kind of wasting away days and days of just going on the shore.
And so the biggest problem that we come up with for like doing invasive species removal and then putting species back in is it's students that come up with those ideas, students that want to do it during the time that you would plant and replant. It's when students are gone. And really when you're back, like it's September basically, and it doesn't like if you seed then it's too late and everything like that. So we had a lot of students who did, hey, let's remove our invasive species from our no-mow zones. Let's remove invasive species from like near the hoop house, things like that. But it's tough when there's not students to do that work because we actually ended up like doing the math and figuring out how much it would cost for everything. And with like the labor of the like grounds people, it's like an immense amount of money. Mm-hmm.
Have you considered, I'm sure you have, but have you considered doing like some sort of internship for the summer where where you're using the green fund, not necessarily, or some sort of fund, funding somewhere in grants or whatever, and have summertime internships with students that stay around and do that work. We're not paying groundskeepers, which you have